Who wants to share something that you're really proud of from last year that you've been working on? Anyone? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So what else do you are in your application?
I'm sure. Jeff Bolton, I'm with the Salvation Army and their obligations are salvations to faith and friends. My team is here. I'm super proud of them and thrilled that they can all join. Um, Something that I'm personally been involved with through the Salvation Army, a great opportunity is working with some of our counterparts in Africa. And so I've had an opportunity to go a couple of times to Africa to meet specifically with our PR officers and our development officers. I was trying to encourage them to find sources of funding, sustainability where they're at. We are in a situation, we're in 134 countries with the Salvation Army. And so as the church declines in the Western world, it's growing by leaps and bounds in the developing world. And so that creates a bit of an economic challenge for us. And so being able to be there, to meet with colleagues, learn from them, learn about how they do communication has been really enriching for me personally. But I also have to share that with our constituents and our denomination. So, just that international viewpoint, I think has been really exciting for me.
Well, and I think that ties back to understanding your audience and also kind of being audience led. So there's certainly Alexander and Raquel were talking about, how you kind of buy into knowing who you're writing for and what you're doing. And so any practical tips on kind of getting outside maybe your Westerners thoughts and connecting deeply and authentically with audiences that, maybe historically have not not been part of your audience?
That's a good question. I mean, we did a lot of listening. What we found by the end of the sessions was that they were teaching each other. So there's a lot of good learning to be had. So in African territory in particular, I've done a lot of good work. They're excellent in the social media space over there. So I found that learning a little bit about how they connect, particularly at the denominational level, everybody has a vulnerable connection to social media. So there was lots to be learned about that. So I think it's just being open and listening.
Right. Thanks. All right. And so the role of denominations is first reaching out to your constituencies and really learning from them authentically. Thanks, Jeff. Who else? Oh, John. Okay. No. Yeah, go for it.
So Jocelyn and I have shared some news, shared some projects together, but it doesn't happen last year. It's happening now. Happened a long time ago. So for our American friends here, you might be surprised to learn that there's only one newspaper, daily newspaper left in Canada that has a faith beat. There used to be, every newspaper had a faith beat 25 years ago, but only the Winnipeg Free Press has one now. And that goes back to 2018 when the Winnipeg Free Press announced that it wanted to do a better job of engaging the various communities in Winnipeg. I happen to be the faith page columnist. I've been doing that since 2003. And I went to the editor publisher and I said, well, if you want to engage all the communities, one community you're not doing a very good job of engaging is the faith community. And they said, well, they'd like to do that, but they didn't have any money. And I said, what if I wanted to raise it? And I did. I raised it from about 25 different congregations, denominations, groups, organizations. And we started the Faith Beat in Winnipeg in 2019. And since that time, over 1,000 news articles about faith have been printed in the Winnipeg Free Press. But I'm getting older and I can't do this forever and I need to transition out of it. And last summer, I started a process that involved Project Magazine and the past review.
Yeah, so I got an email from John and he said, this might be a crazy idea. It might be my craziest idea yet. And so, of course, I want to read it. It was proposing that we become the new program with the Free Press. And so that took a bit of thinking to figure out, well, how does that fit in with everything else I do every day? But one of the things is, John just mentioned he's been fundraising himself and being the reporter. And we're not going to find another John that can write about all the religions that pay and fundraising this and do it. Grace, you're doing that, basically. So because we are a registered charity, we were able to get significant funds from the Winnipeg Foundation as a basis. And then we also, because we're a charity, continue to fundraise with those communities. And there's also individuals that are also funding the project. Additionally, we have readers and donors in Winnipeg, so we can animate them also as part of the project. So we've got this funding piece figured out, and then the next part was to hire a new journalist so that John can continue with his column and just not be a whole daily hustle anymore. And so we just last fourth, I think he's in hired Josiah Neufeld. Some of you have probably worked with meetings today, so latest have worked with Josiah. He's a phenomenal writer. He's won lots of national magazine awards in Canada. And he is, was basically born and raised in Burkina Faso as a sharing kid, and he's done a lot of things about that. But anyway, he's a very, very thoughtful guy. He's very thoughtful about the environment and Christianity. So he's our guy, and he's the person who's going to be taking this over. The arrangement is so we're holding all that fundraising part. We're paying Josiah's now on our staff, but he works from Winnipeg, and it's like having a stringer in Winnipeg. So the stories are going to be published in the press, and they're going to be published abroad. Share them. We don't necessarily coordinate because that day that we're going to publish it, it's signed on the same moment, but we both benefit from that arrangement. So that's the part of it.
I love that festival because it really is about collaboration and collaborating from a position of strength. So it's not that one is giving more to the other is ethical. It's achievable and you draw from the strength of others. So really looking forward to seeing more. What other festivals are out there? John, what about them? And they
Oh, hello. My name is John Schiffer. I am the past president of ACB, the Media Pass. Thank you, Randy, for taking this out. Thank you. I also am the editor of the Christian Recorder, which is the official newspaper of the African Methodist Church. So I would do two things. I'm going to tell you the best move that I made when was that the Recorder week. So the best move I made was hiring my new editor, Shara Foley, who's right here. The sad as that the shower used to be a columnist with us, but we had a vacancy, and some of y'all know I also was a 2-year time professor for a full-time job, and it was becoming very clear that we needed to do some shifting, and Tashara just started doing stuff that needed to be done, and my wife was like, "You are the happier you said editor." You didn't even realize. It was like the person who came and did the work was the one who did the job.
Yeah.
And Tashara has been amazing in helping us to see things, to understand things. And one of the gifts she has is being able, I've been in the seat 10 years, and being at a denominational leadership seat, sometimes you miss certain things, or people won't talk to you about certain things, but they'll talk to someone else. So the shower has been invaluable of helping us to read that for our customers and see what we can do to better serve them and for our publication. The best news being was this year, many of you also know the Recorder, this the oldest publication produced by African Americans in the United States. It's already the first game issue. We're the only one for the Civil War that still is in existence. Up until now, there has not been a sole archive of the Recorder. Our archives stopped around 1902. There's still around that. That's good. So what we decided to do, working with professor at Wilson State University, also a pastor and a trained archivist who was trained by the United States National Archivist, was we've embarked on a campaign to digitize the Recorder from 1852 until now. And what we found was that there were people that waiting on us to do this. And so churches are like, hey, we have 1,000 volumes of the recorder, so we might need we were waiting on somebody to take it. So it's been an amazing response. And I'm hoping that by, well, we will know that this time next year we'll have as full run as possible on the recorder from 1852 until now. That's just not work for our nominations history. It's important for African American history of the country. So that was what that's in the violate and investment that we.
What's interesting about this is a really kind of shifts from that scarcity mindset of like, oh, I don't have enough time, or oh, I always need to. When you look at the community that surrounds you, when you look at your leaders, when you look at your staff, is there, and you have the support, and things can be more achievable. So I would resolve to kind of look out into that idea of abundance, and I can't wait to see your archives.
Mhm.
Who else? Who else? Coming under notice now.
Oh, I'm sorry for doing that. So, I'm Susan with Canadian Mennonite. A couple years ago, our board approved some funding to include some broader voices within our magazine and creative projects. And so we call it our Meadow Creative Residency Program. 2 years ago, we had 2 people, including, I have notes to keep track of all these people, but it was someone who did a podcast about an opera about Mennonites that was done in Brooklyn a couple of years ago. So you can look for that if you're interested in that. And we had a woman who did profiles of 10 different diaspora Mennonite church leaders. This year we expanded. We were kind of ambitious with this, and that's why I have to have notes rated by different projects. And so we have funded her sisters who are doing musical with a podcast, so research podcast that goes with there called A Well-Behaved Woman. It's going to be on Granville Island on July 3rd and 4th. If anybody's in Vancouver or wants to go there. We have someone doing a podcast about, it's called The Schism Between Us, about a little rift that happened between 2 parts of the Mennonite denomination. We have a queer woman who is finding her way back to her church and her family through singing together. So she was just writing an article about that and early steps in it. And so she wanted to make a documentary. We said, we cannot fund a documentary, but we can fund an article that might lead to something. So we're doing that. We have a woman who is a psychology student at the University of Waterloo, who's looking at how, and I think this is really fascinating for the work a lot of us are doing. She's looking at how neurodiversity is how we renew our minds, or is a way of understanding the renewal of minds that works against the kind of tribalism and divisions that happen within the church. So she says, what is it? What are the spiritual practices we do that promote unity within the church? The final one, I think, but the final one is a woman here in Toronto who works with Connect City, and she's writing a series of articles for us that are about how we work in the church, how and sometimes out of the walls of the church. So we're about to take on a new cohort. We're not doing 5 again. We can't afford it time or money wise, but it's been really exciting to see the different things people have done.
I'll just keep that in mind because I'm curious that engaging with audiences in really different ways. You know, Paul and hands when I'm in the room to say how much to get credit, but those are all decidedly not credit venues. So can you talk a little bit about sort of your strategy on connection and why those projects and what they're doing for your organization?
We wanted to follow the energy of where people were. We found ways to kind of bridge between print and beyond. So sometimes we contribute those people for our magazine, which is a way of bringing it into print. Sometimes they have written for us. The woman who is reconnecting with her family in her church, that is all writing, as is the woman from Connect City. But we moved into the podcasting business. I would actually say that this isn't really a great thing. I hate being in the podcasting business. Because we have multiple channels, and then we don't know what we're doing, and we sound like we don't know what we're doing. And when someone brings us an article, we say, okay, no, we know what we're doing. So it's an experiment. It's not awesome. And it sounds like they're good stories, but some of it has been a pain too. So, but it is connecting new people and new voices. And so I feel like it's worth the experiment.
And actually, I was struck by what something even said in the AI panel that younger generations really value that authenticity. Like, it's okay to be cringe. And so it is okay to show your seams and to experiment and to try. And I think that it really just shows this is work that's important and you're trying to engage in a lot of different ways. ACP has a new podcast. And so I feel like if you've Ray's done with the best move, I'm probably going to reach out and we're going to talk on our podcast about her best move. That would be great. Who else? Yeah, Lee, and then we'll go to Bosco.
Hey everybody. I am Lee Cato, Reverend Lee Cato. Somebody told me I need to say that more, but I'm the editor of Unbound, and Unbound is a publication about faith and justice under the Presbyterian Church USA. And every year we do a Lincoln devotional and Advent devotional. And last Advent we did a trans Advent, which was written about all trans people of faith. And one of the reasons why we decided to do that is there has been an attack on the trans community in the US, and many of those attacks are coming from circles of faith, saying that, the validation and all those kinds of words are being used. But trans people of faith are some of the most faithful people I've ever met and speak a lot to the embodiment of being a person of faith and being the first say we're Christian, when we talk about incarnation, our trans siblings can tell us a lot. And so I learned about being a part of the queer community. We can also be very united. And I learned a lot from our trans siblings. And so that was something that was great. But also, I do want to shout out Associate Church Press. I am a board member, a new one, and I have really appreciated the kind of openness to different perspectives that the board has been open to and under relentless leadership. I really appreciate that. And yeah, it's been great. And to be here has been wonderful too. So it is.
And to that end, ACP at our business meeting, the board of directors adopted a value statement. You can see it on our website, something that's really, we felt, especially in these times, especially with what's happened in the United States, we needed to be very clear about what we think is important and the values that we want to operate under. So that is there. And Bosco, tell us.
One of the things that I'm really excited for is the Younger Leaders Gathering next year in Brazil. We have 1,300 people gathering with 400 mentors, and that's happening March of next year. That's something that was before the US. That's same time. One of the things that we identified is that those so-called younger leaders are 25 to 35 years old. We realized when a big bridging. It used to be younger, like anyone under 40 was younger, and anyone over 40 was older. That was an old thing. UN calls it under 30. For us, we use that in our Zen global space. But what was missing, guys, was missing a bridge generation. So that was a huge, we launched it globally, and it was a bridge leader. We launched global bridge leaders initiative, and we hear it from a lot of the 30, 50-year-olds. A lot of us are holding responsibility. So we did a survey, we captured some of their voices, and we're really sharing a bit more of that data right now. And we're collecting more and more to continue ongoing projects. And speaking of podcasts, the reason why I'm over here is one of the younger leaders who is going from Canada to the Brazil. She'll be here tomorrow as part of the intergenerational panel. And she's a podcaster, and she's recording it live. So if you want to see her do it, we're gonna come and check it out and see it on breakouts.
Right. Thanks so much, Bosco. I think that's really important to recognize that each generation, each group of people has something to give, something to receive, and should be more aware and welcoming of those things. So, Kevin, were you about to say something?
Hello, my name is Tom Chamley, and we run a little marketing agency in Chicago that adopts very basic polishers. And I are in the money business, and we always need more cash. And one of the things that we discovered over the last several years is that a lot of our readers are baby boomers, and those folks are starting to die off. And we're going a lot of ways. We're doing a lot of funerals, but we're also leaving a lot of money. And one of the things that happened this year, now, if you're in the large donor business, you got to go find the 50 grand, the 100 grand, the 1,000, those folks. But what we have found in the last couple of years, we have to be more intentional about telling our readers it's okay to put us in the will. It's okay to put us in, in the estate planning program. Be mindful. We had somebody show up this year with $250,000. No one knew it was coming. It just popped out, and there it was. We said, "What are you there?" But we wonder if there's anything more out there. And so what became very clear to us this year is raise your hand, let the readers know it's okay to do it. And more importantly, if you got a lawyer and chat us on, we'll work with it. So that is the fun of the day. Thank you.
I think that's great to ask for what you need. So, and money, people don't like to talk about money, but we all like to pay. I like to talk about money. I don't want to go over there. So, but being clear about what you want and providing a pathway so people can help you, like in Plant Giving, that doesn't just happen overnight. You have to show your sustainability that you're a good place for that money to go. So, who else has investment? Oh, Sally.
Actually,
Someone quick, we're sorry to then. No, it's for closer to that.
You all try to be brief. Paul Schratz, editor of DC Catholic Weekly Paper in Vancouver, and very proud of the coverage that we've been giving to medical assistants in dying over the last few years, and especially in the last year, when it is reaching just outrageous proportions. And no matter your feelings on it, a lot of things are happening that it shouldn't be happening. And we've been covering it. And I would say in a way that no media in Canada, again, we've been winning some religious awards, and I'm very proud. Some of them should be nominated for Pulitzer Prize awards because it's revealing a lot of the inadequacies of what's happening, and we won't be covering it much longer because our paper is going to become a magazine, a fall monthly magazine, and I'm going to be continuing my efforts with Canadian Catholic News, developing that news service, and looking forward to building relationships that I've already got here, and I'm realizing I've been away from these meetings for too long because it makes so many good contacts, so many story ideas, so many ideas. Our archives are a mess. I'm going to learn from Johnson today. Well, reaching out and trying to get some people to go through their attics, find out where they are. But very proud we're going out and with some of the best work we've ever done. So say a prayer for us, and I look forward to continuing the relationship with Canadian Catholic News afterwards.
I think it's really important to recognize the sustained focus on particular issues and the look or the perspective that you bring to those issues. It's unique. It's different than anything else that's out there. And it's kind of holding close to the idea that you have something really tangible and unique to provide to your audience. This is really important. Sally.
so that piece of my comments for me. My name is Sally Hicks. I'm the editor of the Commission and also the vice president of HCP. I've been a member for many years. So one of the things I'm really proud of this year is that we don't attempt to be a news publication. But sometimes the news just it's too important to ignore. And so this year we're bringing a number of stories, interviews, essays about the immigration issue. And we've had folks in Chicago, Minneapolis, on the Texas border, Washington, D.C., as it's horrible federal raids have swooped in, and focusing on what our people of faith are doing. And that actually fits really well into our sort of mission framework, which is, I always think of our unofficial motto was helping Christian leaders do their jobs better. So our idea was both to highlight this work because it's good work, but also to offer models to propose maybe they suddenly facing this issue because it's been, very sudden and overwhelming when it happens.
But also putting in a good word for collaboration. One of the reasons we could do it is, for example, when George Floyd was murdered, we made some connections with congregations in Minneapolis that then we turned to. One of the Chicago essays was written by Celeste Kennelshank. Someone you know, she's a member of ACB and the board for many years. So we had all these connections in these places. So making a pitch for that kind of collaboration with some various collaborators as well.
So I think that's really, really good. And so something that the Associated Church Press, which covers North America, is we're a pretty broad organization. We've instituted a new member directory. It is password protected, but if you go to our website, theacp.org, to connections member directory, and you put in member with a capital M, we've developed our membership directory so it shows all of our publications, but all of the staff within those publications. And I think we've heard today that, Paul's going to reach out to John about archives. Sally's worked with other members and other people that she's met at different conferences. And I think everyone has those connections. And sometimes when you're in the weeds and you think, oh my gosh, what am I doing? It's important to know that there's a whole community out there to support and to collaborate with you. Another initiative that ACP is going to be working on this summer is a collaborative story or content sharing platform. We'll use PluckyWire, which is a service out of New Hampshire. And so we'll be rolling that out slowly. We're looking for partners who want to share their content first to kind of build a sandbox, and then we'll invite others who want to republish content using the Creative Commons license. So there's already collaboration going on, but we really want to support that and make sure that it's sustainable and it's not, the passion project, but it's something that they can live on. Like the things that John Malhurst has been doing, such passion projects, but one person can't do it alone all the time. And so that's where we have to look to our community. Who else wants to share? Oh, all right, Georgia.
Can I have two? We did a couple of things last year that I'm super proud of, and a number of things too. I'm guys feeding I'm sorry. I'm managing out of today, not the ask. Earlier in early 2025, we were reported to powers that be Instagram for violating community standards. And we had done even, but we were taking our dogs taken down, and it was without review, because there's nobody left at Instagram who's doing any review right now. We reported that some Facebook that were leaving Instagram, and most on Facebook in our events. Through a few channels behind the scenes, we were able to reinstate our presence on Instagram, but we had to think about, do we really want to? And because of so many reasons, one of those reasons being there is no human doing the decision making that Instagram is the blocker. And also because there are no real living standards at Instagram any longer. There is no oversight, and for us to be taken off for doing nothing, that was no oversight. So we decided to take ourselves off Instagram. And in a time where everyone is still talking about, expanding social media, you've got to be there, you've got to be all places. We decided this wasn't very much our threats. And we moved to Blue Sky because there is oversight there. There was, and it still is, and they do not advertise. They are, it's a Fireplace, it's called, and there's good conversation to be had, and there are people who are willing to work with us to make sure that our content is properly and probably to. So that was the big thing for us. The other thing was we started Black Facts, called Theology of Hip Hop. And people think that they know what hip hop is. Even if you're a hip hop head, you think you know what hip hop is. And there's so much contained in the world of hip hop that it is illogical, that it is a question of life. It puts forward a language that I understand, my kids understand, but also asks questions that address theology and religion or faith in a way that a lot of people relate to but don't hear. And so we started this podcast season, and we run it by about podcasting. But I think a lot of us who know hip hop learned a lot about hip hop, and a lot of folks who don't know hip hop learned a lot about hip hop. And that was going to be a good, especially because those like, like, he said that. But then you listen, and you're like, oh yeah, that's what I said. So that was a big thing for us. I'm really
There's two things I want to draw out of that. One, I'm drawing away from Instagram. That's a total example of you all living your values and being really clear about who you are and what you're doing in the world. And I think that's an example for all of us. There's that fear. Sometimes there's a little FOMO, like, well, I should be here, I should be there. And I think Clay would tell us in marketing that you need to choose your values. You need to do some things really well. If you're just diffused effort everywhere and you're not stating who you are, that's a fool thing. So glad you did that. And then I also wanted to bring out, the theology of hip hop is not maybe the most obvious topic out there, but it really shows that coverage of religion and theology, those topics infuse all of our lives. We heard from Reverend Jason last night talking about how Canada is culturally more religious than the U.S., and the U.S. is kind of in the grip of Christian nationalism. So everywhere you go, there's talk of Christianity without a deep understanding. And secular mainstream media is really loath to touch those topics because there's so many people out in the world that are unchurched or spiritual or whatnot. And so I think there's a real opportunity for the people in the room with their publications to explain and make things more accessible to the public while you're talking about different issues that are important to them. So I think that's looking for those different ways of existing. It's really important. Who else? All right, birthday boy.
Actually, I'm not speaking for myself. I'm speaking for one of the young women priests in our diocese, whose name is Geraldine Henry. And she's a woman of color. And she has 400,000 followers on Instagram and TikTok. And she puts out daily various social justice oriented, controversial. She's not afraid to think about any subject. And as far as I know, she hasn't been taken down. The other thing about her is she traveled to Palestine in December with the diocesan delegation and developed a series of recordings for that, and was really outspoken about the genocide in Gaza and the attacks by settlers in the West Bank, which have killed people and also prevented children from attending school and prevented farmers from having their land. So one person is able to reach. She's in her Middle East offerings had 1 million followers. So that's a really base influence on the debate.
And what I love most about that is if you have something to say that's unique, share it. Don't be afraid of that controversy. We have something to give you. I'm noting that it's a smidge past 1:30. Does anyone have maybe one last message that they just feel they need? All right. Now, I wanted to highlight our videographer and our photographer who have been, are they? Hi. So, Joe, right? Brandon, I'm sorry. So just wanted to shout out to our Danielle Turd, who's been doing an amazing bit of work. You'll see our sizzle reel tomorrow at the ACB Awards. We'll also be highlighting it on our social channels. And then Malik, our photographer, has done this great photographs. We'll also be posting those on the website. So thank you to both of you for doing that work. And let's give it a round of Dubai.